Hi, good morning, everybody. It's Mike Alpich here on a beautiful Sunday morning, and I wanted to talk with you briefly about some of the state's most underrated players. And I am going by, for purposes of this video, the Scout.com rankings, the current Scout rankings. And what I did was I looked at their rankings and pulled out some players who I think are a lot better than where they're ranked. And this is not a shot at Scout. Um, that's what rankings are for. I mean, they're for people to argue and debate. And so, please, no one take it personal. It's just my opinion. And so, with that being said, there are some guys who have moved up the rankings. And we can start with them. First of all, the guy who first catches my eye is Dutchtown safety Justin Reed. He has increased his ranking approximately 20 points and is ranked now in the 40s in terms of overall safety position nationally. And Hunter Dale, by the same token, who was ranked very closely to Reed last time, he's going in the opposite direction. Hunter was ranked around 66 or 64, I believe, and now Hunter has dropped down to closer to 90 in the nation among safeties. And so those are two players that jumped out at me. Dante Jackson, the DB from Riverdale, has been rising up the ranks. He's now the number 11 corner in the nation, and I had the privilege of doing an early article on him thanks to his coach, Coach Brett. I appreciate Coach Brett helping me get that done a while back. So looking on down the list here, another person that stands out is Alabama wide receiver commit Jalen Charlo, who is he has plummeted down to 40 in the nation among wide receivers. And that's a bit of a surprise, because if you saw him at the NUC 5-star, and he was really, really good. So I am surprised that Dalen has dropped down to 40. I kind of figured that he might come up and be closer to 20 or 10 at some point. And so it actually shows you, what I know in terms of what they're going to do with the rankings. Another guy who is taking a step down in terms of rankings is Barkeith Mouton. He's a tight end commit for LSU from Acadiana. He's ranked as the number 22 tight end in the country right now, and he originally was around number 10, I believe. So he has dropped around 10 or 12 spots. Going along, a guy who has improved a spot, Courtney Wallace, the defensive tackle from Neville, is now ranked 45th in the nation among defensive tackles. So he has moved up considerably. Bo Wallace has moved up considerably. He's now the 50th ranked offensive linebacker in the country. He is from John Curtis Christian. Another guy who has moved up is South Carolina defensive tackle commit Josie Milton, who is now the 52nd ranked player in the nation at his position. The one player I had the biggest complaint about is Jason Pellerin. He's ranked 72nd in the nation among quarterbacks. He's an Ole Miss commit, and let me just give myself one pat on the back. If you recall, I'm the person who said that Dak Prescott was the man when he was a senior at Haughton, and he was way under the radar. And I believe back at that point, he only had offers from a handful of FCS schools. And if you don't know what FCS schools, that's what's called the old 1AA schools: Grambling, Nicholls State, Southern, McNeese, those type of schools. Which there's nothing wrong with that, but we see that Dak is now a Heisman contender at Mississippi State. So another player who's dipped some, Kendall Bussey, is down to the number 84 running back in the nation, the Nebraska commit, and I believe he got up to either the second or the first all-purpose ranked running back in the nation for Rivals. So that is quite a disparity right there. One thing Scout needs to change. I'm not trying to be bossy, but Cameron Elof, a 3-star defensive tackle from Parkway, he's not a defensive lineman. He is an offensive lineman. I put him into the system as a defensive lineman early on, and then it became clear he was going to play offensive line, so I changed him. But then the powers that be changed him back to defensive line. So I just want to point that out. He's an offensive lineman all the way. Wrapping things up, going down the list, I'm a little surprised that Jalen McCleskey of St. Paul's has never gotten a ranking. He's undersized, but he can do everything, and he's not that undersized. It's not like he's 5'6". I mean, he's 5'10", and he's still kind of thin, but hey, I mean, so are tons of guys who end up excelling at the next level. So Jalen McCleskey of St. Paul's is an unranked player who could be one of those guys who, in retrospect, was way underranked. Also, I think that Shun of Calvary Baptist is much better than the 143rd ranked corner in the nation. I understand there was a snafu recently where Mississippi State didn't accept his commitment, and hey, this is the guy you want on your team. That's all I got to say about it. I'm not going to bash any coaches or anything, but obviously I'm very high on this kid. Rashid Bonnet is the 177th ranked wide receiver in the nation, and Hunter Register as the 199th ranked wide receiver in the nation. No further comment. If you've seen these guys play, then you know where I'm coming from. I'm about to wrap it up here so I can try to stay within my zone that I had set up. The last person I'm going to mention, 2-star middle linebacker Kendrick Jackson from Haynesville, committed to Arizona. Doesn't have a position ranking nationally. That's a travesty. This guy is an impact player, and if you don't know, then check out his highlight videos. Kendrick Jackson from Haynesville. He's part of the reason that Haynesville is in maybe its finest golden era ever. So that's a look at some players who I think may be underrated, and also talk about, I told you about a few guys who have moved up the rankings. And if you have some topics you'd like me to discuss, post it on my Facebook wall. And I always enjoy talking with you guys. And I'm out for now. Peace. Football season is getting upon us, so that's another thing to rejoice for. Take care. Have a great Sunday.